AITAH for arranging another playdate with a mom my mother-in-law thinks pays too much attention to my son? Posted by you/educational reveal 847. The title is a little misleading, but that's essentially what happened. I'm also not sure our ages matter, but I am 44F. My daughter, 6F, has a sweet friend, a boy we'll call Luke. Luke has 2 older siblings, but they're not really relevant to the story. I also have 2 more kids, an 11-year-old son and a 2-year-old son with Down syndrome, JP. We had a playdate a few weeks ago at our home with just Luke and his mom, Katie. I'm not exactly sure how old she is, but I know she's in her 20s. Well, obviously JP couldn't just go play with the other kids. He cannot walk, he cannot talk. So he was with me and Katie in the living room. While my 2 older kids and Luke were playing, Katie and I were talking. And while JP can't talk, he makes noises, grunts, etc. Whenever he would do this, Katie would sort of make up something he said and say it for him. For example, I was talking about JP and said he gets chatty in the middle of the night, and JP started grunting, and Katie looked at him and said, "No, don't worry." I don't believe her anyway. Which I laughed about. It was funny. My mother-in-law stopped by to grab something and stayed to chat for a bit. She noticed that Katie interacted a lot with JP. She asked Katie who she knew that had Down syndrome, I guess assuming that she knew someone? And Katie told her that she actually didn't know anyone aside from a little boy she went to church with as a child. My mother-in-law seemed put off by this and eventually left. The next day she came back over and asked my daughter if she had fun playing with her friend. My daughter said yes, she loves playing with Luke. My daughter ran off to play, and my mother-in-law looked at me and said, "Well, at least she got to do it once, and you know not to have them over again." I stared at her, wondering why, so I asked her what she meant. She said Katie was too obsessed with talking to JP for someone who has no experience with children with Down syndrome. I was thrown by this because to me it was refreshing. Most people forget JP is there, pretend he isn't, or focus on what's wrong with him. Katie treated him like he was any other 2-year-old. And so did her son, although he was a bit more confused as to why JP wasn't speaking. He never said anything about it, which leads me to believe Katie has made sure to teach her kids not to point out other kids' differences. My husband is away for work for a while, and my mother-in-law has been my support while he's been gone. And she essentially told me she's not willing to keep helping if I have another playdate with Katie and her kids. Which is a problem because they are supposed to come over again in a few days. They've come here both times because it's easier for me and JP. My mother-in-law thinks I'm exploiting my son to make a friend. I don't think so, but I do want to become friends with Katie, and I don't think she was too interested in JP. Top/relevant comments. Commenter. Not the jerk. It sure sounds like your mother-in-law resents the baby for his condition. Clearly, seeing him being treated as normal stirred up some uncomfortable feelings for her, maybe because she wishes he were normal, and or because your friend is so much better at interacting with the baby than she is, I assume, which highlights her own failures. 2 points of concern here. First, she's abusing her status as caregiver to exert control over you and your parenting and social choices. You are the parent, not her. You make the decisions about who your kids have playdates with. Second, it's a little worrisome that she might be feeling this resentment toward your baby. How does the baby act around her? If he seems fearful of her, I would definitely stop letting her watch him. Ops response. JP doesn't act fearful of her, and she's never said anything to suggest to me that she resents him. But I think I will ask my oldest son tomorrow if he's heard her say anything or interact differently with JP when she's babysitting. She also thinks it's weird for me to want to be friends with a mom so much younger than me, even though Katie's oldest is the same age as mine, and her youngest is the same age as my daughter. The only kids without a common age are JP and Katie's middle child. Commenter 2. You are in a tough situation because you are dependent on your mother-in-law's help, but she is completely wrong. Katie's interaction with JP is refreshing and heartwarming. Too often, people feel that they don't know how to interact with special needs children, so they shun them completely. To have another adult interact with him naturally and in a friendly manner is really good for him. You don't have to worry about Katie, and you are certainly not exploiting JP to make friends with her. On the contrary, having her as your friend will be good for JP as well as for you. Ops response. Thank you. I truly don't have friends outside my husband's family, not because of control issues. My family lives in another state and I can't see them much. And making friends is hard when my time is taken up with my kids' activities and JP's therapies, and I can't just take JP anywhere whenever I want. It is hard sometimes. It gets lonely. And adding on top of it the I'm sorries I get all the time and the I don't know how you do it and I couldn't handle that. And my favorite one, that must be so hard for your other kids to not have as much attention. that leads to feeling guilty for days afterward. It was nice to meet a mom who was willing to come to our home for our comfort and also didn't say all the things that make me feel like I'm uncomfortable spending more time with them. I just didn't want to think I was exploiting JP just to make friends with someone I enjoyed being around. Update 1 year 1 month later. So, it's been a year. Luke and my daughter are in the same class again this year and are thrilled. We did have the second and many other playdates with Katie and Luke, and also Katie's other 2 kiddos. All 3 of Katie's kids are nothing but kind to JP, and every one of them takes time out of whatever they're doing to come hang out with JP every time. Her oldest son, specifically, can get JP going really well. He's 13, will carry JP around and push him on the swings, with my permission. Edit to add, it was with my permission at first. Now he just takes his little buddy JP and heads right on out. JP and Katie's oldest have this bond that I can't describe. JP lights up when he sees his big buddy. When my mother-in-law found out I was having the second playdate, she was really mad. And she did, in fact, stop helping me out with the kids while my husband was gone. My husband was mad about this, her actions, not mine, and hasn't spoken to her since. She has consistently reached out to see if we need help with the kids in any way. It brings me great satisfaction to say that both my husband's and my response has been, no, you don't need to help us. Katie is helping us. Because while I was so overly worried about whether I was exploiting JP to make a friend, I felt like I needed to tell Katie I didn't need her help, until I really did. And when I did, she showed up, and she showed out. And there hasn't been a day since that Katie and I don't talk on the phone or text more than just, oh, let's hang out here and there at this time for the kids. Katie is my friend. And not only is she my friend, she loves my kiddos with her whole heart. And I love hers. And before anyone asks, yes, I have kept Katie's kids for her also. They are so well behaved and respectful, it's such an easy yes. Thank you to everyone for your advice and kind words on the original post. My family might have lost my mother-in-law, but we got a Katie. And that's worth a whole lot. Top/relevant comments. Commenter. Shut up, that is so adorable. Her 13-year-old grabs your son and basically says, I'm the captain now, and your little man loves it. Fine. I'll cry over a Reddit update today. Ops response. I'm sorry. And haha, he really does. He shows up and JP gets so excited, and then my child just gets carted around wherever we are for hours sometimes, lol. Her son carried JP around the zoo for 4 hours one day and refused to put him back in the stroller, or let one of us hold him instead, because the stroller can't get close enough like we can, and he can see better if I hold him. He's definitely the sweetest and most empathetic 13-year-old I've ever met in my life. And you can tell it's not forced either. Her son gets excited to see JP, too. It's so sweet. And I'm so glad that we get that. It makes me cry too if I think about it too hard because I can't believe it just fell into our laps because my daughter made a friend at school. Commenter 2. I think it is fantastic for both boys to have their bond. I have experience with special needs children and know this bond is important not just because he feels loved and valued, but because he has a friend. Every 2-year-old thrives having friends, and his is also a role model and mentor. It's good for the 13-year-old to be able to act on his desire to care for JP and feel the love and value he gets from JP. Their relationship is heartwarming. The fact Katie connected with JP right away is also fantastic, and if your mother-in-law doesn't see it, she doesn't want to, she's ignoring it or making up reasons to think it's bad. Ops response. Katie's oldest is one of 2 kids handpicked and approved by the SPED teacher in the whole school to accompany the SPED kids on field trips, hang out with them, and help with getting their lunch, helping with their physical activities like books or anything like that. Just basically hanging out with them and being their buddy, because oftentimes they have none, and helping them in any way possible. He was chosen without any knowledge of JP. You don't get to apply for it. The teacher observes all the kids in the school casually, and when a replacement is needed because a kiddo leaves middle school, he comes to you and your parents and asks if you're willing. And they are picky, as they should be. They had no idea when they asked him about his experience with JP. He just stands out that much that they wanted him involved. That sweet boy has the chance to help a whole lot of people in his life, and I truly believe he will. And honestly, I feel honored that JP was his first, and according to him, favorite little buddy. Commenter 3. Gop, I just woke up and your post and comments are making me cry in bed. Ops response. Would it help you laugh instead if I told you that part of his reasoning I didn't include was that me and Katie are both way too old to carry JP for that long? I'm 45. His mom is 30. Haha. One of us was greatly offended by his statement, and it wasn't me, haha. Commenter 4. I have a Katie in my life, and they are worth their weight in gold. Ops response. Truly, she is. We love her, her husband, who hasn't come up just because it's not relevant to what I'm talking about, but he and my husband have become very good friends also, and their kids. I'm so glad you have a Katie also. I wish everyone did. Commenter 5. I think that your mother-in-law, is she ex-mother-in-law now that she's been excommunicated? Was against exactly this kind of connection between your son and anyone. She probably couldn't fathom how or even why he could be treated normally or even enjoy being around him herself, despite knowing that it was expected of her. When some stranger waltzed in and did it as if it were natural and unforced, she hated that. And of course it's all about her, so her shortcomings made her feel obvious. Ops response. The more my husband and I have talked about it, we think so too. She's never been mean to JP, and I asked my other two kids if they'd seen anything in the past, and they both said no. But we think she believes she was on this pedestal of oh I'm the only other one who can handle JP, and based on some of the things she said during her cutting off, her regarded grandchild, and when she saw that that finally wasn't the case. She got mad about it and tried to make Katie out to be a bad person because she didn't feel awkward around JP. If anything, given the way she's acted, and I could go on for days, you'd think she'd be relieved someone took over her duties of fake love and not care that they were replaced with real ones.